Town Sports, everybody. I'm Nick.
And I'm Darren.
And we want to plug our website real quick, pfpsports.com, and certainly our boy over at Alpha Dog Nutrition.
AlphaDogNutrition.com. Get your supplements, pre-workout, post-workout, shakes, drinks, mixes, powders. Get it all, baby.
Blake's a hell of a guy. Treat him right. You can also check us out on Justin TV. That's actually been really big for us. A lot of guys watching live, so thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks to everybody watching on Justin TV.
And we are actually getting ready to sign a deal with ESPN here in San Diego. They do radio on 1700, so we're going to be heard and seen all over San Diego, L.A., just a fantastic market to be in. So we're really excited about that. August 4th, and we're going to get some really good guests, so definitely stay tuned. Just jump right in the deep end here. Michael Bisping. First story of the week. He mentions, they keep throwing around Hector Lombard and everything in the 185-pound division. Michael Bisping, he's healing his injuries. He's looking for the next fight. They've tossed out Brian Stann or Alan Belcher. Either one, I'd be perfectly happy to see. What's the upside to either guy? Is there a downside? How do you feel about either one of those opponents stacking up against Bisping?
Both those are phenomenal opponents. First off, but I can't get out of my head that if Lombard wins that fight with Boach, that Lombard and Bisping would be such a good fight to sell, such a good fight to see exactly where Lombard is in the 185 division.
Sure.
But as far as that Alan Belcher, is anybody on the kind of streak that guy's been on?
Well, he's 6-1 in his last 7 fights, but in my opinion, he's 7-0. I don't care what that record says. Akiyama, he definitely should have got the nod on that one. The guy, like I said, he's pretty much finishing everybody. That's the thing, too. That's what nobody else is talking about. He's finished Kane, Cote, McDonald, Paul Harris.
Well, the whole thing with the 185 division, too, is it's almost like Hector Lombard's number one contender status to lose. You see what I'm saying?
You've never seen a guy coming into the mix in the UFC, and he's already, they're already throwing him in top 10 contender. I've never seen anything quite like that.
Well, where's Alan Belcher on the list?
Why isn't he even? Why is nobody talking about that guy?
Why can't he fight Hector Lombard if he wins, and the winner of that be number one? Because nobody's more deserving than Alan Belcher. Yeah,
nobody's more deserving than Alan Belcher. Like I said, the guys they pretty much put everybody against him. If you weren't a believer before the Paul Harris fight, you definitely have to be a believer now.
Yeah.
That guy, he looks incredible. Then you look at Stan on the other hand. He came back down from 205. His only notable losses really come against Phil Davis at 205, and of course Chael Sonnen, who's fighting this weekend. Either one would be a fantastic matchup, and definitely a tough test for Michael Bisping or Hector Lombard.
Yeah, and Bisping's coming off a loss too. So the fact that, as much as I like Michael Bisping, the fact that we're even considering him still a number one contender, I disagree. Maybe after Anderson kicks Sonnen's face off this weekend, maybe they could rearrange that rematch so he could avenge that. But the whole thing. The 185 division, to me, it seems to me like Hector Lombard's kind of getting the expressway right to the title shot, which, okay, it is what it is. But
that's all good and fine because, like I said, he's never really faced the top-tier competition that the UFC has. And I say it all the time. You look at 185, it's as deep a division as there is in the UFC right now, and it's as good as it's ever been, as long as anybody's been watching the UFC. So, in my opinion, if you're going to sit there and talk about Hector Lombard, that's fine. Throw him up against any top 10 opponent in 185 and see how he does. I say throw him right into the deep end.
No doubt.
As far as that fight goes, I think it's more or less a case of, pick your poison. If you're going to go with Brian Stann, you're going to have to deal with, some knockout power. He's finishing people, and he's looking for finishes, too. That's the thing. He's looking for them. He's efficient, and he's finding them. And he's overwhelming guys like Chris Lieben, early on, too.
Yeah.
George Santiago, Alessio Sakara. Not the biggest names, but, you can't deny those guys' experience. And, he is running right through them. He's doing what he should be doing at the end of the day.
You're talking both those guys up. At the end of the day, I think Michael Bisping would be a favorite, the odds favorite against either one of those guys.
Against either one, as well he should be. I think Michael Bisping is really put together a really well-rounded game, and he's gone from, you hate to use the word cellar. He's never really been in the cellar, but he's kind of just been in the middle of the game for a long time. The guy's in the UFC how many years now? And never a title fight.
I know.
Never a title fight. I'd be happy to see either one. I think it's pick your poison. Tough test for Bisping either way.
If Bisping wants a title shot, he's probably going to have to beat all three of those guys. What do you think about that?
What a travesty.
2 out of the 3.
I would definitely say at least 2 out of 3. What a travesty that would be. But
he's lost his last fight.
Michael Bisping?
Yeah.
You're right. It was a very close decision. And what's funny is we always talk about fighters, always wanting to obviously avenge the last loss on the record. And for Bisping, it's definitely Chael Sonnen. So that's in the radar. But does he want a piece of Sonnen if Sonnen loses this weekend and there's no title implications? There's nothing to be gained from that fight. What do you think about it then?
Yeah, I think he wants a piece of him. I think he would jump at the chance to avenge that loss. Absolutely.
Well, I would love to see it. I mean, Bisping, he's got a full dance card. Everybody at 185. I mean, like I said, 185 hasn't always been the deepest division in the UFC, and now it finally is. And you got a lot of guys like, power wrestlers, Mark Munoz, guys that just wicked ground and pound. I mean, there is something for everybody there at 185.
Well, you just look back a few years ago and look who was fighting for the title. I mean, Rich Franklin was defending his titles against guys like David Loiseau and, guys that didn't have very long UFC careers.
No, and you look at the lineage of the UFC, and, you definitely see, just the step up in competition. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the UFC acquiring all the smaller promotions, and, they've evolved to the point, that they are now. But, man, just we literally have 9 divisions now.
Yeah,
I mean,
growing,
every
man.
single one of them deep, and what that translates for all his fans is, cards every single weekend. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Yeah.
Your boy Tito, big weekend for him. Win, lose, or draw, he's not going to be fighting anymore. That's what they've said. Some guys always like to go back on that. We don't know exactly what's going to happen there. But I did notice with some of the stories we were posting on the website that Tito, he's voiced interest in training, the next breed of fighter. He wants to be affiliated in the UFC one way or another. And the funny thing is that Dana's kind of said, he was asked that question by a reporter, and Dana said, I don't know, he doesn't really feel working with Tito, post-contract. But then in the same sentence, he'll mention, wanting to, have a similar relationship with Vanderlei Silva. So, I mean, what do we do about, what does Tito do?
Why
not Tito?
Why can't Tito open up a gym and train fighters? What does that have to do with Dana?
He can definitely do that. But Tito, I think that the idea was he wanted to do something similar like Chuck Liddell is, having a front office job, developing talent, working hands-on with the people in the UFC. I mean, I think no matter what happens, he's definitely going to have a gym, if not 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But, is there favorites here with Vanderlei Silva versus Tito? I mean, either one. They're both pioneers. Both guys would be fantastic to train new fighters. I mean, I just don't understand why not Tito.
Dana, I guess I'm just not really understanding the whole training fighters thing, because last I checked, camps train fighters. Developing the fighters, working in the front office, having the Chuck Liddell job, basically. I mean, let's be real here. It's a very emotional weekend for me. Tito Ortiz is the reason I'm sitting right here. I mean, I think everybody close to the show knows that. Tito Ortiz is the 100% the reason I even started watching MMA to begin with. With that being said, I mean, it's pretty clear that him and Dana haven't always seen eye to eye. I mean, we go back a few years ago, we were talking about putting together a pay-per-view boxing match.
Yeah, literally. I mean, people forget that.
It doesn't surprise me that Dana still would be playing favorites with Vanderlei Silva. I don't see what Vanderlei has that Tito doesn't, as opposed to being able to train up and coming fighters or mentor or whatever the case may be.
2 totally different styles.
So you know what, Tito, his post-fighting career, he's got a stacked plate. A lot of people want to hate on Tito. He's a father, he's a husband, he's got his own brand to run. So many fighters that today want to talk about making their brand. Rashad Evans, I know you've mentioned that a few times on the show. And Tito Ortiz was the first fighter in MMA to make a brand. I mean, let's be honest, he was the first guy to be that guy, And Punishment Athletics is huge, man. He's probably making more money off of that than he is fighting MMA right now.
Oh yeah, no question.
So I mean, he's got plenty to do, and who knows? Maybe we'll finally get that boxing match with Dana.
You never know. Now let me ask you this on a side note. What is it like for you? I mean, everybody has their favorite fighters out there. I mean, sometimes you actually wonder why do you look forward to stuff like this? You're chock full of anxiety. How are you feeling going into the weekend? I mean, is it a fun experience, or is that kind of anxiety?
I'm going to be honest with you. I have a hard time finding anyone who's a bigger Tito Ortiz fan than me, but I have been saying for a while that he should just hang it up, because the new age fans and the fans of the last 3 or 4 years, they don't know the Tito Ortiz the way you and I know him, the way we remember him when we first broke into the sport. They remember him. Oh, he's the guy. It's the guy making excuses, blah blah blah. That's what they remember, and it's tough to see. It's tough to see him get in there and get booed by everybody. And he could, maybe he was like the first heel of MMA.
Well, he's always been the guy that the fans boo, but then they cheer him at the weigh-ins, but they boo him when he walks out. I mean, and nobody can ever make up their mind with that guy.
Yeah, I guess I'm just that's where I differ. I've made up my mind from the beginning. I've always been a fan. I've always been a supporter, but I was thinking. You know what he did is he made the mistake of knocking down Ryan Bader. That's what he did for me. And then so I got to see that, and then I just went absolutely crazy, and then and then he gets the quick shot against Rashad.
Which, you know what, props to him for taking that fight, by the way.
Yeah, he took it on short notice, and I'm thinking, man, he beat Rashad. Here we go, baby. He's getting his belt back, just like he always said.
Right, he drinking that Kool-Aid a little bit.
So, But no, it's time. It's time. Obviously, I hope he goes out on a win. Hope he goes out, if nothing less, an impressive performance. But it's definitely time.
Yeah, the fact about the one thing I noticed about Tito, and before I get to that, I noticed I always know you're a huge Ken Shamrock fan, and I hate to bring up that name, but I was actually going through my DVDs the other day, and I come across this old one I bought a long time ago. It was Tito and Ken Bad Blood, and I don't mean to bring up Shamrock's name, but the reason I bring up that DVD is because it really gives you a good insight as to how long Tito's really been in the game. I mean, you watch footage from back in the day. I mean, and I've always been a huge fan of the behind-the-scenes footage because you get to see what goes into a promotion and the fights. But back in the day, I mean, they didn't have the handlers they have now. I mean, before they were mainstream, you watch a DVD or a tape like this, I mean, it really shows you how far the UFC's come.
And make no mistake about it, the level of athlete today is 10 times greater than it was 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, not Chuck Liddell, not Randy Couture. It was Tito Ortiz that was ruling that division at the beginning.
Right.
So a lot of people
Tito was the poster boy. He was.
Tito could only fight who was in front of him at the time.
Right.
It wasn't the big sexy matchups that we're having today. John Jones and all those people. John Jones wasn't around when Tito was first broke in. I mean, the sport has evolved. We're not talking about Babe Ruth going able to hit 50 home runs this season. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just that's what happens in sports.
Tito
is no different.
Tito is an example. He's one of a handful of examples, of guys that were career UFC fighters and. Those are the guys John Jones and the up-and-coming guys today patterned their game after. Those are the guys in the videos that they were watching.
He still has more consecutive title defenses than any guys have.
Still. It's in jeopardy, though. It's in jeopardy.
Well, yeah, it's going to come to an end. But
it's looking like it might, but, we never know. You never know in this game. We'll jump right into the weigh-ins. We got a huge card coming up, UFC 148, excuse me. I couldn't be more excited about it. MGM, my favorite place on the entire planet.
Not a better place.
I'll settle for Mandalay Bay, but I prefer the MGM. Anybody that's been there knows what I'm talking about. We saw yesterday Chael Sonnen, Anderson Silva. You saw the weigh-in, or not the weigh-ins. It was a stare-down, more or less. I mean, we haven't even got to the weigh-ins. Those are tomorrow.
It was a presser. It was just
a presser, just to drum up interest
yeah.
and send more material out there. But I got to be honest, man. Have you ever seen anybody get in Anderson Silva's head and provoke that kind of a reaction from him at all?
No. You know what? The only time we've ever even seen something similar. Anderson Silva is always such a mellow, calm guy, but remember there was some beef a little bit with Damian Maia. I don't remember what was said, and then he kind of took that into the cage with him and kind of was kind of trying to embarrass him, and that's the problem when you piss off Anderson Silva. He doesn't just want to beat you; he wants to embarrass you.
Right.
And so if Chael Sonnen wants to poke at that tiger, then go ahead.
I see it a little different. I mean, there's a lot of questions that come in. Well, that's why I'm here.
Okay.
What kind of world would it be in if we all saw everything eye to eye? I see something different in this fight. I see a guy who's actually gotten obviously under the skin of Anderson Silva.
How could you not? He's been under the skin of me. I'm a fan.
Watch the panel, when the press is answering or asking questions rather, and you listen to Chael Sonnen. He's literally sitting there for 35 minutes straight, just running his mouth nonstop. And I started thinking, actually, regardless of who you want to win or think is going to win, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if I'm the champion or just another fighter in general, how do you sit there poised and just listen to somebody, call you every name in the book, just throw everything in the kitchen sink at you, and keep your cool? I mean, it's got to be a hard thing to do.
Not only that, but he the guy Chael Sonnen. I love his ability to sell a fight. I'll tell you that.
There is no better.
This fight, and this is most anticipated UFC match. I mean, can we think of another one that even rivals this? I can't.
In recent memory, no. I would say the one that's come close. I mean, everybody loves a good old-fashioned grudge match. Everybody. And, you wonder who's going to get emotional and who's going to deviate from the game plan. That's why everybody loves it, all the drama. In recent memory, no. I would say the only thing that came close would be, I wouldn't even say Rashad and John Jones. I would say Rashad and Rampage. I mean, that was the last time you saw this much smack talk, this much build-up. I mean, they built that up for a whole season.
Well, they did because they wanted to sell that fight, and they also had the Ultimate Fighter do that on.
Right.
But this whole thing.
This is bigger. This is bigger.
This whole thing with Chael Sonnen, for example, if you watch the primetime show, he's sitting there talking about how Anderson Silva's making a bunch of excuses about his ribs.
Right.
Okay, but then he's talking about all these excuses on the fifth round, how he was fatigued, how he couldn't see because the blood was in his eyes.
That's a lot of shtick. I mean, I don't think you can
it is,
deny
but
that.
it's like, some of the stuff is funny, some of the stuff is just tired, and to me, a lot of it is getting tired, and I cannot wait to see that fight.
I can't wait to see it either. I mean, that's what we love. I mean, there's so many. If it's one thing I love about the fight business, it's that you come in, you drink some of the Kool-Aid, you watch and you follow everything. there's so many questions leading up to Saturday night, but that's why they call it the ultimate proving ground for the lack of I hate metaphors like that, but I mean it's true. I mean they're going to answer all the questions for us, and hopefully we're going to walk out of there, and hopefully the judges aren't going to be a factor, and if they are, I mean, you got what you see is what you get. I mean, you're going to expect something anytime you leave it in the judges' scorecards. But I really have a hard time believing that whether it goes Sonnen's way or Silva's way, I think it's going to be a pretty clear-cut victory for either one. Should it go either way?
Oh, we'll see. I mean, that's why they're fighting. But and let's make one thing perfectly clear: the UFC couldn't be happier about this rivalry.
Oh no! Do you see when Sonnen's cracking all those jokes? If you watch Dana, I mean, he's busting up. I mean, they're laughing all the way to the bank on this one. I mean, I struggle to find the top pay-per-view at the moment. I would imagine it's UFC 100 or something similar. But I mean, I've been saying for weeks this is going to do over 1 million buys. I mean, it's going to shatter 1 million buys. I mean, I'm literally pumping gas, and I hear people talking about this at the gas station. I mean, that's how crazy it is, So we'll go into the prelims here. I mean, top to bottom, once again we have a pretty good card on file.
Yeah.
Excuse me, on the books here. Melvin Gillard, Fabricio Camoes. Camoes, I actually remember him earlier this year. He's looking solid. He's putting a lot of things together for him. I actually noticed in camp he's working on a lot of left hooks, sweeps. A lot of people don't know he's a third-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's got a 3-fight win streak right now. He could sub you, he could KO you, but your boy Melvin, we never know what we're going to get. I mean, you look at that guy; he's one of the best pure athletes I've ever seen. Lightning quick, but he deviates from the game plan. He takes unnecessary risks. Is that going to be the story of this fight? Is that going to do Melvin Gillard in?
Melvin Gillard, you struggle to find a more exciting fighter than him. Just with the trash talk, with everything about him. I loved when he made the move to the Blackzilians. A perfect fit for that whole camp. But it's like they're just keep on throwing guys after guys that are just bad matchups for him, and this is another one.
Styles of fights. I mean,
it's no question that Melvin has a hard time defending jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's been, I remember Rich Clemente.
Right.
I mean, how long ago was that? Called him out after that. I mean.
It's a process. I mean, at the end of the day, you're also going up against world class athletes. I mean, it takes time to develop a game like that, particularly.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to compare his jiu-jitsu defense to mine. I'm just saying
it's hard
for the sport. He's got terrible jiu-jitsu defense.
He needs more.
I mean, it seems pretty. I'm watching him fighting, and if I'm sitting there thinking, "Hey, dude, wow, yeah, you should probably." Take his hand off your wrist.
Work on it.
Come on, something so simple.
Right.
And then he gets submitted 10 seconds later. I just have, as much as I want to go with Melvin, I've always been a big fan of Melvin. I have a hard time picking Melvin, especially when he's fighting a guy that's,
jiu-jitsu savvy, third-degree black. Yeah,
I mean, come on.
And that's always been Melvin's problem. As soon as the fight goes to the ground, people take his back relatively fast, and a lot of his losses on his record are by rear naked choke.
Yeah, and let me ask you something. When he gets rear naked choke on Saturday night, because I predict that's how he's going to lose, I mean, is that it? I mean...
that's a real tough one.
That'll be 3 or 4 straight losses.
Well, look, I mean, you just sent me something with Joe Stevenson in it the other day. I mean, we're talking, they're cut from the same mold. Not in terms of style of fights, but the same era. They've tasted similar peaks in their career and seen similar success. And Joe Stevenson looked terrible in that fight. It was unfortunate.
Bottom line with Melvin Gillard, he's a phenomenal talent. Nobody's more athletic than him in the sport. But you got to evolve eventually.
You have to evolve.
They can't just keep on sending him back in there and having him get submitted.
If he goes in there, he's gonna. And look, if you could send guys like Patrick Cote down, he's coming back after winning 4 straight on the road. I mean, I say road away from the UFC. That's where everybody wants to be, obviously.
Yeah.
But same thing. I think this is one way ticket out of here. Should he come up short again in a similar fashion?
Might not be the worst thing for him.
It might not be the worst thing for him, but you know what? I'm going to go against that. I'm going to say that Melvin needs to fight a fast, technical fight, and he needs to push the pace. And as long as he doesn't take any unnecessary risks, I'm going to go with Melvin Gillard on this one.
Yeah, and I had a feeling you were going to go that route, so it's exactly why I picked Camones.
Well, we'll see what happens. Next fight, Gleison Tebow, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Say that 5 times.
Nice.
I know. I did that pretty good.
You did.
Nurmagomedov, I noticed that there's another up-and-coming fighter, a guy that probably a lot of people don't know his name for obvious reasons, but this guy, he's got big power. Not terribly technical with the head movement and everything, but he will stand in front of you and bang. Against a guy like Gleison Tebow, he's been in the UFC for a long time. Tebow, he goes back a while. He's a really well-rounded fighter. He's dangerous when he takes your back. He's in a good example of a guy that I see really putting everything together. He's a guy that the knock on him earlier on was that he's a boring fighter. A lot of people like to use the word boring fighter, particularly when you see a guy go the distance a lot, which Tebow did. But he is evolving. He's looking for finishes. He's getting a little more efficient. Who do you have winning this fight? Is he going to be able to withstand the power?
I haven't seen enough of Khabib. Did I say that right?
Yeah, no, you did. Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of him. I'll just call him. But, obviously you can't deny the impressive record. He's been smashing dudes over in Russia.
Absolutely.
And, you look at his fight list, I have a hard time picking out who's who.
Yeah.
Gleason Taibu, I don't know, man.
It's a make-or-break moment for a guy like that.
Yeah, you know what? And it's just, to me, it's almost like they're giving Khabib a name.
They are.
Yeah, and I think he's going to win this fight. I don't know. I don't know much about him. Obviously, he's fought the one UFC fight. I've seen that.
Right.
He looked impressive in that. I've seen a couple of his fights on YouTube. He looked impressive, so I'm going to go with him.
You know what? It's actually it's a great matchup for both points in their career because you got a guy that's been around the UFC for a while, put the game together, versus a guy that's up and coming.
Yeah.
So one guy's going up, one guy's kind of plateaued, and somebody's going to fall. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And Gleason, he's got 3 victories in a row too. So I mean, it's not like he's on a downward stretch or anything. I'm not trying to say that. I just think he's kind of in a bad situation to where everybody knows his name, but yet he's fighting an up-and-comer that nobody knows. Nobody wants to be in that situation.
Right, and that's we talk about that every week. It's an example of a lose-lose for a guy.
We talk about that with
established.
Shogun's going through that right now. Same thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. If I have to pick somebody in this fight, I'm going with T-Bao. As long as he doesn't make a mistake and get knocked out, I think he can win this fight pretty much any way he wants to. So we're going to see. I'm going with T-Bao on that one. That takes us right over to the main card. Ivan Menjivar, 24-8. He's back down to a bantamweight, which is crazy because a lot of guys don't even know that he fought George St. Pierre earlier in his career at 170. Now this guy's a bantamweight. That's incredible. He goes up against another bad dude, Mike Easton. Man, this guy he's really putting it together well. He's only got one loss. It was by KO. Interesting fact that I saw in his career and on his resume is that he's got a win over John Dodson in a lesser promotion, but he out-hustled John Dodson. That's a very tough thing to do. I mean, that kind of stood out to me. Mike Easton, he's 7-fight win streak. He's a difficult guy to take down, and he does pass a lot of guards. Going against a guy like Ivan Menjivar, coming out of TriStar, extremely well-rounded. Gun to your head, who do you got to pick in this fight?
Gun to my head, I'm going to Ivan Menjivar.
That's you know what? And I don't think you're crazy for doing that. If I look at this entire card, that's probably in my opinion, the biggest pick'em fight out here. It really is a pick'em in every sense of the word.
Yeah, Easton's a great young talent and kind of bursting onto the scenes here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won this fight. But for some reason, I just think Menjivar's going to win this fight.
You know what? It really could go either way. Another great example of Joe Silva matchmaking. That takes us over to Chad Mendes, Cody McKenzie, coming off the Ultimate Fighter. Cody McKenzie, obviously he's well known for his guillotine.
Yeah.
He's really revolutionized that hold. I mean, some guys when they're working jiu-jitsu, there's certain moves that just appeal to them. Guillotine is it's his specialty. He sees things developing and he sets up for it really well. That said, I don't really see him offering a lot for Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes is the number 3 featherweight in the world for a reason.
Number 2.
Number 2?
On my ranking, he's number 2.
Excuse me. Pardon me. I'm sorry.
You want to go with some other second-rate ranking? Go ahead. But
excuse me.
He's number 2 in the world.
Please excuse me.
All right.
Number two for a reason. His only loss coming to Jose Aldo. I think, as far as I'm concerned, if he can stay out of the guillotine and push that pace, use the speed and power, I really don't see anything Cody McKenzie can offer him in this fight.
I don't either.
Huge step up.
Yeah. No.
Huge.
You got to give Cody McKenzie credit. He's trying to bite out of that next level of competition. But you're absolutely right. I think Chad Mendes wins this fight. I think he wins this fight easily. Anywhere this fight goes, really, he's going to out-wrestle him. He's probably even got the striking edge.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
he really does.
I think he's going to outstrike him. He's going to take him down. He's going to ground and pound. This fight's going to...
As long as he doesn't shoot in there and give up the neck, that's really the big red flag there is the guillotine.
Yeah.
Don't give up your neck. Don't do anything stupid. And he could really have his way anywhere this fight goes as well.
Yeah.
That takes us over to Dong Young Kim and Damian Maia. You think about Damian Maia, and this guy, he seems to be regressing. You look at his style.
You love some Damian Maia.
I did.
Man,
I'm still waiting. It's like we understood that he has to evolve with his game. Everybody obviously we're conscious of the jiu-jitsu, so he puts together some boxing. He's got a orthodox southpaw stance, and it looked like he's putting together something here. It's improving for a guy that has the. He just has the mentality. He's developed his jiu-jitsu game at a superior level, and he seemed to really pick up the striking game. But when I say regress, not only has he abandoned the jiu-jitsu game completely, but his striking is it's become boring and mundane and predictable. He's going backwards. What do we do about this?
You know,
Damian Maia?
It got to a point, a couple years ago where when Damian Maia got to the fight to the ground, it was over. I mean, it didn't matter who he was fighting.
People would cheer. They'd see a takedown, they would cheer.
Yeah, it was over. There was no doubt. I mean,
right.
Go take a bathroom break, but it's not. It's just not the case anymore. It's,
right.
What happened? I wish I could tell you.
You know what? I think it's also important to point out that I believe this fight is taking place at welterweight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I got to wonder how Damian Maia looked really bad. He looked kind of just tired early last time, so I wonder what that weight cut is like. I mean, traditionally wrestlers, they're fantastic at cutting weight. Jiu-jitsu guys, they're not so much known for that. So I mean, like I said, I don't know how the weight cut's going to translate. You look at a guy like Kim. I mean, this guy, he hasn't finished a lot of people, but he's a grinder, man.
His striking's getting better too. You watched him progress over the last year or two, and his striking is getting a lot better.
And he's an incredible grappler too. Yeah. Very strong on the ground. That's been the general consensus with a lot of guys.
Yeah, but you know what? 2 years ago, it didn't matter how good of a grappler you were. If you got to the ground, Damian Maia, you lost.
But when was the last time we even saw Damian Maia try?
I mean, that's what makes this fight so hard to pick, because how do we know, Damian Maia isn't going to, it's hard to see him getting a dominant position on the ground and not winning the fight. It's just so weird to see.
But can we see him do that? I mean, and even then, like I said, his last fight, I mean, his striking was just, you've never seen anything like that. And in my opinion, he's just regressing too much in his last two or three fights. I have a hard time picking Damian Maia, especially against a guy like Kim, who's a grinder, who's just doing everything right. I got to go with Kim in this one.
Yeah, I got Dungan Kim.
Alrighty, so we see eye to eye finally.
Yeah.
Takes us to our next fight, Kung Lee, Patrick Cote. This is a great chance for Patrick Cote to really push the pace and close the distance against a guy like Kung Lee. Kung Lee known for his kicks. I mean, when I look at a guy like that, I mean, he has the most dynamic feet anybody's ever seen. But how does that translate in the best mixed martial arts organization on the planet, bar none? I mean, you're facing the best competition there is. You can't just come in and be a specialty and expect to win fights. And not only that, he's only 7-2.
Yeah, you know what, Kung Lee, he's more of a novelty act to me.
He is a novelty act.
He's 40 years old. I'm trying to think what he really has to offer to us MMA fans, and basically it's just an exciting, crazy kung fu style of kick.
If you want to learn kung fu, you go to Kung Lee. I mean, if you want to, a lot of guys train with Robert Drysdale for their jiu-jitsu game, but you don't see Robert Drysdale in the UFC. He is a jiu-jitsu specialist. He has fought in MMA, but he's a specialist, and so is Kung Lee.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And with that being said, Patrick Cote had a rough stretch in the UFC, got cut. Got to give him props. Did exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
Went to the smaller shows, put on 4 phenomenal performances.
Right.
Against some lower competition.
Yeah.
Caleb Starnes, I think, was one of the guys he beat elsewhere.
Another former UFC fighter.
Yeah, but he did exactly what he's supposed to do. He won those fights, and he is a huge favorite in this fight.
As well, he should be.
I agree with you, because he's just a better all-around MMA fighter.
Absolutely, and you look at Cote. I mean, the guy's got a fantastic chin. He's got big power. Also likes to stand from the left side. Cote, I mean, he's a grinder, and you know what? This guy is.
You remember the run? Sorry to interrupt you, but you remember the run Cote got just because he took Anderson Silva into the third round? That was the first time. Oh my God!
Right,
and then he blew out his
ACL, and you know what? Nobody likes to make excuses, but you got to wonder how much of a factor that played in a few of his losses. He wasn't able to go out there and do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
But fantastic opportunity for Cote. I mean, like I said, he can push this pace, close the distance. This fight, I don't want to say tailor-made, but it does have all the makings for him to have a fantastic night and look good doing it.
Yeah, I think Cote wins this fight.
I absolutely think Cote wins this fight. That takes us into the main event. Man, this is a nail-biter for you. Co-main event. This is a nail-biter for you. Forrest Griffin, Tito Ortiz. This is the trilogy. Both fights, the first two, ended in split decision.
Both of them. Isn't that weird?
That's an incredible statistic, actually. Yeah. Who do you have winning this fight? I mean, obviously your heart's with Tito. How do you see it playing out?
My heart's with Tito, and I'm a fan first, so I think Tito's going to win this fight. But remember the first time he fought Forrest, he had such a dominating first round. You remember that? I mean, it was borderline 10-8. And
to make that argument,
and then that's when he went in there with the injury excuses or whatever. Assuming he's healthy, which whoever knows. I mean, how many of these guys are ever really healthy? But assuming he doesn't have some sort of fused together membranes
L4
or
whatever, L5,
I think he's gonna. I mean, he's put everything he's had into this training camp. This is his last fight. I think he's gonna go out with a bang. Maybe he doesn't win the fight, but at least give us a good performance. I don't want to see him curled over against the fence, just getting pounded.
No,
I
don't
want to see him a good performance, and I actually think he's going to outstrike Forrest. Forrest hasn't really been the most active fighter recently either.
Right.
And who knows where his heart is? So it's just like, I think he's going to win this fight.
I think he can, absolutely. Tito Ortiz, I mean, one thing I noticed is that I saw him training with Freddie Roach. And you talk about evolution and evolving your game. That's what you need to do. I mean, he's working on the technique and doing everything right. And what better place than Wildcard Gym to go do that? For me, that's the thing that sticks out in this fight is what are each of these guys doing different? When I look at a guy like Forrest Griffin, I see a lot of inactivity. I'm a huge believer in ring rust. And I see a guy that really hasn't evolved a lot. I think that, Forrest Griffin, I mean, he's going to get punched in the face a few times. He's probably going to wake up somewhere late in the first round, early second. And, he's going to throw a lot of leg kicks and a lot of high volume. But with Tito, I think as long as he can push the pace of this fight, and you talk about this being his last fight, win, lose or draw. I mean, he's gonna leave it all out there. I have no doubt about that. The only question for me is how well is the body going to hold up? That's the big X factor for me. Sometimes you see a guy that, regardless of what you want to call it, excuses, injuries, the guy's had a lot of surgery, and your body just doesn't respond to what your brain's telling it to do sometimes. So. We're going to see how that pans out. For me, the third round is going to be the big factor in this fight, and I would be shocked if it didn't go the third round and go pretty much the way the first two did, a back-and-forth battle for the first two, and probably in a split decision. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But as far as I'm concerned, I got to pick somebody. This is also a very close fight. It's a pick 'em fight, in my opinion. I got to go with Ortiz. He's been a little bit more active, and he's doing a few different things, and he's got every incentive to go out there and look good.
And one thing he's never really gotten the credit for is he's got good striking, and he's never really gotten the credit for that. He's cracked Chuck Liddell a few times. Maybe he doesn't have the knockout power.
No.
But he has good striking, and he has enough striking to where he's going to be able to stun Forrest.
Absolutely.
And be able to take him down.
Well, he's also been more aggressive lately, too, Tito. You see a sense of urgency out there. Instead of watching the guy that is content to counterpunch, set up a takedown. I mean, he's actually been a lot more aggressive lately, and I like that. That's when I talk about a guy evolving and doing different things with Freddie Roach. I mean, that's another thing you have to throw into the mix is a guy that's, he's actually looking to be a lot more aggressive and put somebody on defense. And because of that, I'm going to go ahead and go with Tito Ortiz in this fight.
Yeah, no surprise, I got Tito.
Big shock. Takes us right into the main event. Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen II. You got the number 1, the number 2 guy going in the world. A grudge match, just tons of bad blood. I mean, it has all the makings of a fantastic fight. I mean, we said it before and we'll say it again. This thing is going to do over 1 million buys. Dana's laughing all the way to the bank. People are talking about it everywhere. I can't wait to see this fight. How's it going to go?
I keep hearing Chael Sonnen kicked his ass.
He did.
Did he? Who won that fight?
4.5 rounds.
4.5 rounds.
The record will
say. Can people remind
Anderson
me who won that fight?
And everybody will say the same answer, but what I would say to them
Who quit?
Watch that fight.
Who quit in that fight?
Watch that fight.
Who quit?
Chael Sonnen quit.
Chael Sonnen quit.
But this is a rare example of a guy that lost a fight, and if I got to be either guy, I'm more embarrassed if I'm Anderson Silva with that performance.
Why?
Because he got dominated.
He got put on his back by a world-class wrestler
Absolutely.
Who couldn't finish him.
Who could not
finish him. Chael Sonnen.
Who else has finished Anderson Silva, or even beat him?
Who else has had Anderson Silva that dominated for 4 rounds?
Nobody.
Exactly.
Nobody.
So how could anyone else have beaten him?
No, that's what I'm saying. You don't see. I mean, it's like obviously Anderson Silva is a world-class fighter. Anywhere he goes, he can dominate the fight.
But people are acting like he just completely got his ass kicked and was.
He did.
He got laid on.
He got outstruck too.
He got outstruck. He got taken by surprise.
Significant strikes.
No question in my mind. You look at his last 5 fights before that. We have guys running around on their bicycles because they're scared to engage with him, which they should be. The guy's the best in the world.
And what did Chael Sonnen do? He took the fight right to him.
Which is exactly what he said he was going to do. You got to give him credit for that. But I got to think it caught Anderson Silva off guard. You don't think he's ready for that now? You don't think he's going to be ready for the front kick that face off as soon as he comes in?
That's for me. That's what I'm most worried about. If you're betting on Chael Sonnen, that's what I would worry about.
Don't because he's going to get knocked out and he's going to get knocked out early.
The key to this fight, he's got to close that distance. And you know what? It's so dangerous when he's in people's guard. And that's the problem with being a world class wrestler. Their natural their gut instinct is to drive through the mat, protect your head. When you're in a dangerous guard like Anderson Silva's, particularly a guy like Chael Sonnen who has a trouble in his career with triangles.
Yeah, that's a dangerous thing. That's not the first time.
He can't get stuck in that guard for too long, and he has to posture up. I mean, I hate to be one of those guys in the back screaming, circle to the left, but there's just no way he can lay in an active guard like that and expect to be okay.
I just don't think the whole bringing the fight to Anderson Silva, which is something he wasn't used to going into that fight. Can we agree on that?
Right.
I mean, the guys just weren't doing that, and
right.
I think that threw him off guard a little bit. Whether it did or didn't, I don't know. He got outstruck. He got out-wrestled. By no means am I trying to sit here and say Anderson Silva is a better wrestler than Chael Sonnen.
No.
But I just Chael Sonnen get this fight to the ground? Maybe.
But you know what else he does?
Maybe he wins a round or two the same way he won 4 rounds. But he's going to lose this fight.
He was dominating the clinch last time, too, Chael Sonnen. As soon as they would break, Sonnen he had something to offer Anderson Silva every time out of the clinch. Hurt ribs. And you know what nobody else is talking about? Nobody else is talking about the fact that Anderson Silva wasn't in peak physical condition to start this camp. He's coming off a surgery, a long layoff. I mean, he's got a lot of – and plus Chael's under his skin. I'm not saying that, hey, Sonnen could go in there and get knocked out in 30 seconds, and that would not surprise me one bit. But – you know, I've never seen a fight where Anderson Silva is going into a big weekend like this with this kind of pressure. Every Brazilian fighter is expecting to see Anderson Silva walk through Chael Sonnen. I mean, he's got that pressure. It's almost like a hometown pressure because he's got that weight of every single Brazilian fighter, like I said. I don't know, man. Like I said, obviously everybody would say, well, Anderson's going to knock him out in the first round. Assuming that doesn't happen.
Everybody is saying that, though.
Everybody I'm talking to is saying that. Oh, he's going to knock him out in the first round.
I think it's a realistic what's going to happen in this fight. I think his striking is just going to overwhelm Chael Sonnen. He's never been in there with a guy like.
You know what I did see though last time, and you know what nobody else talks about how cocky Anderson Silva is. I mean, the guy is cocky. Look at what he does in the weigh-ins. Look at what he did when he fought Forrest Griffin. He knocked Forrest Griffin down, I think, for the second time, and he throws his hand out to kind of pull him up. It's just he does cocky, arrogant things, and nobody brings that up. You know, I mean, the guy's no saint.
Well, we'll wait till no, I never said he is, which is one of the reasons why I love him.
Right.
But you wait till Saturday night. You think that's over the top? I'm pretty sure he's got something in store for your boy Chael Sonnen.
He could. You know what,
I mean, make no mistake about it. He's 38 years old. Okay, he's won on such a 14. He's won every UFC fight he's been in. Eventually, the guy's going to lose.
Right.
You know, eventually he's going to lose. These guys eventually will lose. And not Fedor, not GSP, not Chuck Liddell. There is not a more dominating fighter in MMA history than Anderson Silva.
No, bar none.
And people are almost taking away his win against Chael Sonnen because he got dominated for 4 rounds.
No, they shouldn't take away his win.
And he won the fight.
He won that. He successfully defended his title.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. But, I mean, people get caught up in the fact that they've seen something that they haven't seen before. And, you know, on a lot of levels, just as a fan, I mean, how many times have I'm a huge fan of Anderson Silva, but sometimes when you see, like the last fight when they fought Sonnen the first time, you saw something you didn't see, and that's what excites people. They want to see something they haven't seen. They've seen Anderson Silva defend his title how many times now? You can't tell me a lot of people don't. I mean, look at the crowd reaction. How many people, you know, are cheering for Sonnen? A lot of people want to see something different. And if trash talk bothers you, I would prepare for a lot more of that should Sonnen win this fight. I mean, I don't know. Do you see it going that way? If he wins the fight,
are you asking if it bothers me?
No. If Sonnen wins this fight, is that going to be just? That's going to be it. The floodgates open.
I was just going to ask you, do you think it's squat? Because I'll tell you something right now. If Chael Sonnen wins this fight, immediate rematch.
And
we don't talk about that. We don't like that.
We got to get away from those.
No, we don't.
That's ridiculous.
This guy has defended his belt how many times? He deserves. If anybody deserves an immediate rematch,
it ruins the sport. And look at how many people has Frankie Edgar fought in the last 2 years.
He doesn't
how many
deserve
times?
He doesn't deserve it. That whole way, we're in 100% agreement on that.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But you know what? That's going to ruin the sport, giving people immediate rematches. Because what that says is the guy that was supposed to win didn't win. Let's do redo.
Certain people earn it.
Let's just hit reset.
Certain people earn
reset while we're at it.
And he has earned it.
Well, I can't wait to see.
You can't deny the fact that if for some reason he slips on an ice cube and loses this fight.
But does it say in the contract that you got to beat the champ twice to keep the belt?
He deserves it.
2 times in a row to keep the belt?
Are we kidding? So we're just going to completely just forget about what he's done for UFC.
You two people clarify the situation. Send us some comments. Who's right on this one?
I can't because everybody out there is all over Chael Sonnen's nuts.
Forget about
Everybody's on Chael Sonnen's nuts.
Forget about the main event. Are we in favor of immediate rematches or does that ruin the sport? I got to know.
Wait. Hold on, dude. We are completely in agreement that immediate rematches blow up the sport.
Kill it.
But if we're going to give them immediate rematches, there's nobody that's more deserving.
Oh, no, I agree.
So what?
Well, since we're in the gift-giving mood, yeah, let's give Anderson Silva a nice big present, too. But I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. Will it happen? We don't know.
It should happen. If it's happening with guys like Frankie Edgar, it should happen.
It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen with Edgar, in my opinion.
It shouldn't. I agree.
Just my opinion.
I agree. I think the whole thing needs to be squashed. But if there's one guy in the UFC that has earned it, it's him.
Oh. We'll see if he wants to fight. Or does he want to just kick it?
I can't wait. You know what? I hope Chael Sonnen wraps that belt around him after he loses.
I can't wait to see it. That takes us to our favorite segment, Take It to the Book. You want to tell the people who you got?
Yeah, I might take it to the book. Got a little 3-fight parlay for you, folks.
Break it down.
I got Tito Ortiz plus 275. Sell your house, bet on that fight because he's going to win that fight. He's going out on top like a true champion. He's going out. He's going to end his legacy. Guy's one of the best fighters of all time. Now, when we talk about attitude, when we talk about brand, when we talk about the whole package of MMA and what this guy's done for the sport, one of the greatest guys of all time. Anderson Silva minus 280 should be minus 1,000. And I got a little curveball for you. One thing we didn't really get into, got a huge card coming up next week, UFC on Fuel TV 4, Mark Munoz, plus 120. And that's just another one. So
that's
we got three fights there, 2 underdogs. Do it.
I love it. Actually, that's a fantastic pick. That's a steal.
You can steal it.
I'll steal that. I'm going to save that for next week because I like gambling 2 weeks in a row. I got a nice little four fight parlay here for you. I got Anderson Silva actually. I want to see Sonnen win, but until somebody shows me that they can defeat the champ, I got to bet with him. So we got a minus 300 there. I'm going to go jump on the bandwagon, the Ortiz bandwagon. He's a 2.5 to 1 underdog. I think
plenty of room, baby. We got plenty of room.
Exactly. For a guy that's already beat Forrest Griffin, I think that's crazy. Patrick Cote minus 260 and Dong Young Kim minus 155. Get a nice little C note on that bad boy. Pays you out almost 10 to 1. For a lot of gamblers out there, I would definitely stay away from Chad Mendes on any card. Don't throw a minus 700 in it. It's not worth the risk. You're not going to get the payout versus the risk. So stay away from that. Got you a nice little 10 to 1 parlay. So I hope you enjoy that. I'm definitely going to throw that down at MGM. That's my favorite sports book for sure.
Not bad at all.
Bar none. With that, got anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I just want to let everybody know we'll be doing a UFC 148 post-fight show about 20 minutes after UFC. So be searching for that.
You know what? I'm actually glad that we're doing that, regardless of the fact that I'm going, because you know what?
And our man Nick will be here. So
I will be there.
If you run into him,
say hello.
Say hello.
Be more than happy. I might be a little trash, but that kind of thing doesn't bother you. By all means, come up. Where can we find you, man?
I'm on Twitter at Darren PFP Sports.
At Nick PFP Sports. And check out our website, pfpsports.com. It's like a sports page. Actually, it's like the front page. You want to know what's going on in combat sports in general? We update it every single day, so make sure you check it out.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page, Pound for Pound Sports on Facebook. Like it.
And with that, we got to go. Peace. Enjoy.